Hello. I think I'm largely saying hello for any future audience, and I'll just mute myself so that doesn't happen again. So yeah, hello, welcome. For people in the future, possibly watching a rerun of this. It's been a while since I've streamed, and I'm not streaming at a time when I've streamed before. So, hey, what happens? People don't show up, or there people aren't here. That's fine. Hopefully, what we're going to do is going to be fun, and it'll be useful afterwards as well. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Kevin. Hello. I'm an educator and developer. I mostly work between JavaScript and Python. And yeah, I'm working with teams to help them improve their coding. And I put out a Twitter poll yesterday just to ask, hey, if I was going to stream today, which apparently I am, if I was going to stream today, what would I stream about? And I sort of said I could build a booking system, a Roblox game, an approval system, and I just threw a Node CLI tool in there as kind of a sort of another option, and that was one people went for. So here we are with Node CLI tools, and so the thought is that we'll do that, build a Node CLI tool, and I have a little to-do list that we can have a look at now. So there we go. So I thought we could make a little quiz app. So a CLI to test your knowledge. And so the idea is that you would type in quizme on your terminal, and it would ask you a question, and then it would be based on something that you've done before. So you can add questions, and then you can be asked questions. And the add would allow you to give the question and the answer. The ask would sort of give a random selection maybe, and then if you get it right, would add a last answer was correct, and would say when you last were asked it. So it's kind of a spaced repetition tool, a tool to kind of help you remember things and to test yourself on things as you go forward. So it's a CLI tool, which is just going to be quizme. That's all we'll need to run when we're done. We'll just type in quizme into our terminal, and it'll go, yeah, for sure, I can quiz you. And quizme -- add will allow us to add a question. Okay, so I don't know how far we're going to get. The plan is that I'll stream for about an hour, and we'll see how far we get in that hour. We're going to set up the project. We're going to have a look at a couple of different options for CLI libraries. First of all, we'll see like what it might look like without a library, and then we'll sort of add in a library to help us. Then we'll look at the adding. For this sort of first iteration, depending on how far we get, but the first iteration, we're just going to store the results in JSON and load it from JSON. And so that's kind of how it will be, that'll be backed by JSON rather than a database or anything like that. So we'll have some ability to add. We'll add these extra fields, a created field, a last answer, and last asked set to null. And then we'll have a go setting it, working with it without a flag. So setting a random question where the last answer is null or false, asking the question, updating the last answer. We'll have a look at the shebang or hashbang characters at the top. I'm mostly thinking, I'm working on a Mac, so I'm thinking sort of Mac and Unix kind of based thinking on how to make a script executable. And if we have got any more time, we'll think about other storage options. So backing it with a database, maybe SQLite, since it seems to be a local based application. It's just one person. That would be a good use case for SQLite. But equally, we might have other ideas there where we might have it. And then maybe having, instead of a random question, just asking questions that you were asked more than 2 weeks ago. So you're not getting the same question over and over and over again. So that's where we're going. So let's have a go at setting up our project and having a look at argv. So let's do that now. So I'm going to make a new directory called quizme. I'll make a new directory that's actually called quizme and cd into that. Open this up my code editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and I'll bump up the font a bit so that it's easier to see. Bop, 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 bop. I'm also going to be using Node version 17 at the moment. Node 18 you could start having a look at. 17 is fine. I think for any production project I'd still be looking at 16. It's the current LTS. But hey, I'm going to use 17 for now, mostly because I want to make use of JSON imports, which is an experimental feature in Node 17. I think I want to do that. I haven't quite worked out what we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to initialize the project, npm init, and let's see what we got. So it's going to be called quizme, that's fine. Version 0.0.1, so a quiz app to help with spaced repetition. If you're not familiar with spaced repetition, there's a Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, which is the invented or discovered, I guess. I'm probably saying his name. I'm butchering his name. And you've probably seen a curve like this several times before. So if you hear something after a couple of days, you likely have forgotten it. But if you interrupt that forgetting at sort of key points, then that forgetting curve, its gradient gets much less. So you tend to learn it or remember it for a much longer period of time. So the idea here is that we can use quizme. Maybe we could automate it that every time we opened up a new terminal window, it would ask us another question, or you could imagine what you might manage for this. But we're going to increase our retention of key concepts in our lives. Our entry point is going to be index.js. We're not going to have a test command just yet. Nor git repository. MIT license is fine. That's good. Cool. So I'm going to create that index.js file. Now, I quite like working with ECMAScript modules, ESM, rather than CommonJS when I'm working in Node. And so that means that I'm going to need to update my package.json and add a single line so I can use the import export syntax that comes with ESM. And that just means I'm going to set the type to, and there's two options: CommonJS, which is the default value, and module, which now with that single line I can use import and export and use ESM. Most of the packages that we use will work fine and play nicely with that. There can be a few issues, particularly on the file system level. And well, this our original what we're using for the persistence level is file based. So maybe I should just leave it in CommonJS, but I won't. I'm going to embrace the pain and deal with ESM because I think it's worth it and worthwhile. So index.js is where we're going to have our script. And we'll have our script in a couple of different ways. Remember, there's a couple of things that we want it to do. So we're going to want it to receive some command line arguments and to do something if there aren't any command line arguments. And particularly, we just really want to deal with this --add command line. Okay, so let's see if I can get my terminal up again. And I'm in my quizme directory now. If I do node index.js, there's nothing in there, so it doesn't do anything. Fine. I basically want this to eventually map to just typing in quizme, node.js, and then --add is the other thing I want to be able to deal with. Okay. So if I wanted to do that --add, if I want to work out if it was there or not, I'm able to tell it's there or not because of the argv property on the process object. So if I console log the process.argv without the --add, that gives me an array with two elements in it: the node binary, the full path to node binary, the absolute path to node binary that was used to run this script, and the absolute path to the script that was being executed. So that's what those two things are. And if I add --add, then I see that that's just another thing that's going, another element in my array. So anytime I do a space, so this is a whole load of words, that's going to be put into a script, or put into different elements in our thing. Hello, first time. Hello, refresh show. That's funny. I assume that's Simon, because Simon's the other person who has the logins for our refresh show podcast. So yeah, hi Simon. If I put something in script, so in quotes, and say hello, I in quotes, like that's going to be a single element in my process.argv. Okay, so parsing that, and I'm only having one option in my script at the moment, so that's not a huge deal, but it's good to lean on sort of tools that are already there. So we've kind of set up the project and we've looked at argv. The next thing is to kind of think about what library might we use. And when I was sort of doing a bit of research and thinking about which library to use, there are kind of four that come up. There's Enquirer. This is where you can see my badly lit green screen behind me. There's Enquirer, there's Commander, Caporal, probably saying that wrong, and Yargs or Yargs. Now, I've used Yargs and Enquirer before, and so I'm tempted to use those again now. Each of them have different ways that you can sort of instantiate and sort of have a prompt, and actually Enquirer is probably going to be good for us as we ask questions about, what's your question, what's your answer, and then we store it. So we probably do want to have Enquirer, and I'd kind of assumed that it parsed arguments, but I could be wrong. Embed a beautiful command line and says, we'll see. Okay, so let's add Enquirer as so that's how what we look like. We got a prompt, and then something to do with the answers, and then we've got a cat. So we've got sort of a promise-based approach to be able to use Enquirer. Commander's UI, we sort of declare which options are available, and then we do something with those. So we carry out some actions based on those options. So we get a nice help text built in with Commander. So that can be quite nice. So the Caporal similarly. So we've got a command, an argument, and an argument, and then presumably it provides some logging, coercion. I was hoping it would show me some, yeah. Oh, that's pretty. It gives me a nice color kind of version of the command line. I'm slightly nervous of colors libraries after there was a, it's a bit small, sorry. I'm slightly nervous of colors libraries after there's that NPM issue a few months ago where it was either colors or chalk, where the developer sort of made it like a recursive loop rather than the actual program. So maybe we should have both. Maybe we should have something like Caporal for our arguments, and then something like Enquirer. And it's Yargs, which is similar to that kind of commands and serve. Colors.js, was that Simon said Colors.js? Is that the that was the library that was poisoned to annoy people? Well, to say, hey, I'm not getting paid, and you're making a lot of money from my stuff, so screw you. Okay, so let's install Enquirer, and thanks, Simon. Let's install Enquirer and see where we're going there. Good. Oh, it's safe now. Oh, great. Well, I don't know the full story there. Did that get? Did someone else take it on board, or what happened there? Cool. So I'm going to import Enquirer from Enquirer. I remember I can use the import exports because I have declared my type as module in my package.json. And then let's have a look to see what, oh good, well done npm and GitHub. So let's have a look. So we'll do Enquirer dot prompt. We want to pass in our questions now. So this, we're going to start off with our adding version, and then we'll add some argument parsing to deal with our testing version. So we're creating a quiz app to increase our spaced repetition skills. So, so this is someone asking a question. So what's the question? Oops. And what's the answer? Okay, so that's what we want to prompt. And then we'll have the answers. Get out of my way. And we'll do something with those. And then we want to catch, see if there's an error. Cool. Let's make that a bit bigger. Get that out of the way. We'll do something with the errors. Okay, so let's just naively just run that and see if it just asks us the questions already. If we're kind of halfway there. So node index.js. Yeah, interesting. Let's see if I've done it wrong. Do the Enquirer.prompt. Oh, I've done it wrong. Amazing. So let's have a look at the example. Always good to see the example. So node packages Enquirer example and pizza.js. So packages. Should say example. Silly. Enquirer example. Oh. And pizza.js. So we get our questions array. So the questions aren't just the question. So the questions are objects that we need to pass in a type, a name, a message, and a default value. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. So let's grab that object, and that's what we're going to pass in there. And there. We're going to fix that in a second. And we've got our questions. And then it's Enquirer.prompt with the questions, and then the other piece. Okay, so is that what we did? Yeah. So now we'll probably get that. Is it to be delivered twice? Is it for delivery? Default answer is no. Cool. Bro. Nice one. Okay, so we want a name. Which is going to be the question to ask. And this is going to be the answer. Actually, we just call it question and answer, can't we? And we can say, what is your question? And there is no default value. And the type we want is probably a text. So let's see if we can see a list of the types. Here we go. Question types. Input number confirm list raw list expand checkbox. Let's assume it's an input. So we're there. So type is going to be an input. And here, and what's the answer? Cool. Let's try that. What's your question? What would 1 plus 1? What would node dash e 1 plus 1 log to the console terminal to the terminal. All these extra characters are weird. Terminal. Am I just typing at the wrong part of my keyboard? Terminal. Weird. And so what would it? What would node dash e 1 plus 1 log to a terminal? Nothing. Because dash e evaluates and doesn't print the result. So 1 plus 1 evaluates to 2, and then node just throws away that result. Okay, cool. Let's console log the answers so we can get an idea of what that looks like and how they come through. Let's run our program again. What's the question? So what does node-p 1 plus 1 log to the terminal. And that would be 2. Okay, so what got printed out? So we get an array with this, which is the variable, is the name of the question, and its value. Okay, cool. That makes sense. So then we have chosen a library. We decided to go with Enquirer for this bit, but we might need another one. And we're doing the logic for the --add flag, even though we aren't testing for it yet, but we'll say prompt for question, prompt for answer, persist to storage with created set to now, last answer and last asked set to null. Okay, so let's do our new question object. It's going to have question, which is in answers.question, answer, which is in answers.answer, created, which is new date, and we'll have last, what do we have? Last answer, null. So that'll be set to true if the last time you were asked it, it was, you got it right, or false, it's the other way around. And last asked, so that'll be the date stamp of the last time it was actually asked. Okay, so let's just confirm that that looks how we want it. So let's run it. What's your question? What node module do we use for sockets? Any thoughts? Testing the chat now. What node modules do we use for sockets? I reckon. I'm going to say the net package. We should probably use others. There. Okay, cool. That looks how I was expecting it to look, which is great. So we've got our object, question, answer, created, last answer, and last asked. Cool. And what we want to do is we want to persist that to storage. And we're going to do that with file system. So I'm going to import fs from fs. Actually, because I'm using a command line prompt and I'm just doing a single read write operation, I'm going to be really naughty, and what I'm going to do, use read file sync and write file sync, because I might use streams. I'll use sync first, and I might refactor it to use streams. We'll see in a sec. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to get the fuck file. This file is going to be, current file is going to be, await, no, not await, because I'm using read file sync, fs.read file synchronously. So that blocks the event loop until the buffer has been fully read out. And I want to synchronously read the file of a JSON file in the current directory. So let's call it data.json. So we're in ESM. Let's see. Maybe it'll be easier. Well, we'll see in a second. We're in ESM. So let's see what happens if I just pass in data.json like that, and then console log current file. I do want to just put something in here just to test. Here I am. And then let's see what happens. We're not going to put anything in there. Okay, we get a buffer. So all of the file system functions give us buffers. So if we want to see what it actually looks like, we're going to need to use the toString method that exists on every buffer. Cool. Okay, so we've loaded the file. That's cool. And then actually we're going to assume it's JSON. So json.parse. Okay, so json.parse. Okay, it didn't do anything, and that's presumably because I don't have anything down here. So if I console log error for now, maybe console error for now. Cool. So that's where I'm getting an error. Unexpected token. Tried to parse something, not JSON. Go away. So that's fair enough. So let's just have it as an empty object for now. And again, great. Okay. So we'll have it as an empty array, and that array is going to be our collection of questions. So I'm going to read the file synchronously, and then I'm going to parse it as an empty array. I'm going to assume it's an array. No TypeScript for me today. And then once I've got that array, I'm going to push my new question, and then I'm going to write. So so I'll do fs.write file synchronously, and write file synchronously takes two things. It takes the path we want to write to. So in our case, it's going to take our data.json. I had no way autocomplete. Data.json, and it takes the data I want to write it to. So I want the json.stringify of the current file. And then I'll have some message to my user saying, thanks for your question. Thanks for your question. Yay. I probably want to only do that if they've actually added a question and an answer. So I should probably have some kind of if no answers dot question or no answers dot answer console log. You need to give me something, and then return. So if I try to get away with that, need to give me something. So what else? What could we ask? So what file extension can you use in a common.js project to treat a file as an ESM? It's not a very well worded question, but the file extension is MJS. Thanks for the question. Yay. So now, hopefully, we have some data in here. Yeah, we do. Cool. We do have that. Now, actually, what we want to happen is for that logic, that create a question logic, only to be triggered with the --add. So we need that logic to be built in now. I'm trying to decide whether or not it's worth installing a library because we just have a single thing to test against. So I don't think we do. I don't think it is worth it. So what I'll do is I will get the argument, so const arguments from process.argv. How do I do this? Okay, how about this? Const add equals if process.argv includes, because process.argv is an array, so if it includes --add, then this should be an add. Otherwise, it should be an ask. Okay, so all of this, just trying to decide if it's worth encapsulating it in a function. It probably is. So function add question. And we'll have another function for ask question. Function ask question, which for now, all it's going to do is say, I'm going to ask. So if add question, else, ask question. I'm going to ask, that took a long time. I'm going to ask, and dash dash add. Cool. Okay. So we're getting down this list rightly. So we've checked the argument. Brilliant. We've prompted for the question. We've prompted for the answer. We're persisting it to storage. Without the flag, well, we've started. Select a random question where the last answer is null or false. Select a random question where the last answer is null or false. And if none of those are available, select another random question. Okay, so last answer is null or false. Okay, so this is our ask question functionality. So I guess we need to load our file. So const data is going to be a naughty fs.read file sync. Tell anyone. If we've got time, I'd like to refactor this bit into a stream, but I'll see if we have time. So read file sync data.json. So I've got my data that I need to parse it. So json.parse that file. Okie doke. So what I want to do, I want to remind myself of what I asked. Set a random question. Select a random question where the last answer is null or false. So we want to. So const filtered questions. It's going to be data.filter question. So question dot last answered. Last answer is null or false. So that means it's like it's not truthy. So I just want the ones that are there. So null and false would both be false. So filter out the ones that are false. Filter out the ones that are true, and just give me the ones that are false. Yeah, I think that's right. I hope that's right. Let's see. And for now, let's just console log our filtered questions, and our questions should be fine. Cool. Otherwise, if it did have something in last asked, did have something in there, it should be an empty array. Oh, was it last asked or last answered? Oops. Oh, had a bit of fluff on my keyboard. That's exciting. Save that data. Let me just double check. Oh, last answer. Cool. Okay. It's doing what I wanted it to do. Yeah. Actually, it should be null because I haven't been asked a question yet. Nice one. Okay. So that's going to give me an array, and then I want to get a random question from that array. So so a random question from that array is going to be like random question, which is going to equal filtered questions, and I want a random integer. So math.floor on math.random of filtered questions dot length. Interesting. What I can't work out is that going to give me, is that going to be 0 base? So if I have like 10 here, 0, 0, what? Oh right, math.random times 10, so 9 to, I guess I want to know if 0 or 10 ever comes up here. I want it to be, good, so it is 0. Cool, I had seen 0 and 9, so I've done this wrong. This should be math.random times filter questions times length, dot length. Cool. So I've got my random question, and now I somehow want to ask my random question. I haven't really thought about how to do this. Oh, it's possible that's empty, in which case, so let's do, So if the filtered questions dot length is greater than 0, that's what we should do. And let's create our question out here. And change that to question. Why is it not auto formatting? I've made a boo-boo. Oh, if it doesn't auto format, it means I made a boo-boo. Let's see how I've done. Something in here. Too many brackets. Too many brackets. Too few brackets. Too many brackets. Okay. So if the filter questions are greater than 0, get the random question by getting a random filter question. Otherwise, so this would happen if you had answered all of your questions correctly. So you've been through all of your spaced repetition system and everything's been answered. If that's the case, then question is just going to be the data. So it's really the same mechanism here, except instead of filter question, it's going to be the data. Okay, so we'll always have, at this stage, question will always have a question in it. Either one that, if there's anything in your spaced repetition system that you've answered incorrectly recently, you'll get it back. Otherwise, it will give you something in the system at all. Okay, so now we want to ask the question. Cool. Thanks, Simon. Thanks for dropping by. Hope the recording's going well. We'll catch up again soon, dude. So the next thing then we want to do is actually ask the question. That would be a good idea. So let's console log the question. Question. So let's just check that does do that. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Because now I don't know what to do. I think I might need to use Enquirer again. If I was using Python, there's a function just called input, which gives a prompt and you wait for the user to input it and then you get it. But that doesn't really exist in JS. So what I want to do instead is use Enquirer. I think I've got it, so I might as well use it. So Enquirer.prompt, and we want an array of questions. We want one question actually, and our question is of type input. The question itself is our question, dot question. And that's it. So once we've done that, we'll have our answer. And we'll want to test our answer. And we'll have to catch any error that might have happened. So console.error. We should add better error handling. That should be on our list of other things to do as well. And just console log answer here. Nice. Okay. So let's try. Brill. Love a good error. What to say? You must provide a name parameter. Oh yeah. Oh, it's message anyway. Great. So this is name. No, it's not. This is message, and then name, which is our question. We're only dealing with one question, so the fact that we're reusing words here is not the worst thing. So what file extension can you use in a Node.js project to treat it like a ESM? My badly worded question. The answer is MJS. So how can I test that? So I guess, and how strict do I want to be, and all of those things. This is hard. Do I care about the dot in that one? Not quite sure how accurate I want to be. For now, let's do exact, and then we can think about how we might change it for if we've got time for that. So if this is horrible. Okay, let's call this result because that feels less annoying. If result.question is the same as question.answer, That makes me want to call this answer now. Then let's console log that we're there. Yeah, this was right. This was right. Otherwise, we'll log no dash sucker. Okay, let's try that. So, got a question, what file extension use ESM? I'm going to say mjs.mjs. Should say that was right. And then something else. No dash sucker. Okay, cool. So again, it's quite brittle. You have to get the exact spelling right, exact spacing right. I could probably make it a slightly better by invoking lowercase on both of them, just to make sure that we that they always at least have that. Maybe that's better. Don't know. Okay. So what are we doing? So at the end of that, we what happens then? What happens then, buddy? Okay. So at the end of that, we want to update our object. So in this scenario, we want to set last answer was false. Well, it was true. We're saying, hey, the last time you asked this was right, and here we say the last answer was false. And then we also want to have last asked to be this date, and everything else to be updated. This makes me think we need an ID, which we haven't implemented down here, which is just foolish of us. Well, of me. So we do probably need an ID here. And so our ID needs to be calculated after here, and it needs to be like get new ID from and pass in the current data. So the problem is that we need to get an ID based on what we're getting in. So let's see how we might do that. Function new data, or function get ID rather, the data. So how are we going to do that? Well, we get the data, and we just want the IDs. So item.id. That's all we want. And then we want the max of that array, and then we want to add 1 to it. What do we call it? Get new ID. That's annoying. Right there. Okay. So now we know we'll have an ID. We know we have a question over there. Okay, cool. I think that will work. Well, let's test it just to be sure. So index dash dash add. What's your question? How can what's the question? Oh, it's quite low on my screen. Not sure you see that. It's annoying. I'll do it over here. Into that. So node index.js dash dash add. So what's your question? My question is, what does dash dash check do as a node parameter? And it checks the syntax. Current file is not defined. Amazing. Change to some of things. I called it current data instead of current file. Silly me, silly me. Let's try it again. So what does dash dash check do as a node parameter and checks the syntax? Thanks for your question. So that one should now have an ID. Let's just check if it does. It does. ID of 1. Let's get rid of the one that doesn't have an ID. That's annoying. Okie doke. So let's ask us the question now. Just to check that we can get asked the question. What does dash dash check do? It checks the syntax. That was right. Amazing. Okay. So, burp, 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 burp. So I'm going to change the question.last answer to true here. So I'm reaching out to this question that we have selected from our array over here. And then the question.last answer is going to be false here. And the question.last asked is going to be now the new date. Okay. So I've got my object, my updated object, based on whether or not my user has got the question right or wrong. I now need to write it to the file again. But before I do that, I need to put it into the array to replace the other one. So I don't know whether or not this all in one line or not, but I'll do it. So I'll see. I'll try it all in one line and we'll decide whether or not we like it. So new array is going to be the data. So to hold the data file filtered. And what we want to filter, we want to remove any item where the item's ID equals the question ID. So equals question ID. So that's going to give us the array that has the question ID removed. Because let's just double check that. So if I put up node, I have an array. I can see test array. I've got say hello, how are you? And then I do test array dot filter item, and item dot includes h. So it's going to give me everything that actually does include h. Okay. So over here, I'm saying give me everything where the ID doesn't include ID. So that's going to be great. Okay. But once I've done that, I then want to push on the question that I've been updating. Okay, so I'm filtering the array to say get rid of the current question, and then I'm pushing on my new version of the current question. And so the final thing I want to do is to write this out to the file system with write file sync. Write file sync again takes two parameters. It takes the file we want to write to and the thing we want to write. So json.stringify our new array. Okay, let's try out our app now. Okay, so Node.js. What does .check do as a parameter? It checks the syntax. So hopefully we check our data. That should now have a, oh no. Okay, what happened there? The problem is that when I push, what push does is it gives me the length of the new array rather than the contents of the array. So I need to actually do that separately rather than assign it to that variable. Okay, so let's try it again. But then my data is wrong, isn't it? Boo. Yes. Brilliant. So let's try it again. What does it do? It checks the syntax. That's right. Okay, let's see. So create it. Last answer. I got it right. Woohoo! And it was last asked at this time, which is UTC, rather than my clock time, which is BST. So that's why it's an hour out. Okay, that looks good. So if I do it again, I should get the same question because there's only one question. I'm going to get it wrong now. Checks the mail. No dice sucker. I should probably remove those unhelpful messages. But now I can see my last answer was false. Okay. So let's add another question just so that we can double check this is doing what we expect it to do. So we could say, what is the difference between dice inspect and dice inspect brick? Oh, I forgot to do dice add. I'm a silly Billy. Okay, so let's try it again. What is the difference between dash dash inspect and dash dash inspect break? Inspect doesn't break once the process starts. Thanks for the question. So now if I run my app again, what's the difference between those? I'm going to get it wrong. Inspect doesn't break on process start. I can't remember. I see, this is bad. No dash sicker. How do I write it? Inspect doesn't break once the process starts. It's terrible wording. Sorry. So let's see. I hope I don't get that question. Well, okay, cool. That checks the syntax. That was right. So now, no matter how many times I run this, I should always get the inspect break one because I've got that one incorrect. It looks promising. 4 times does not a test make, but you know, you get the idea. And then if I do get this question right somehow, because process dot, oh no, inspect doesn't break a process start. Is that how I said it? What did I say? Where is it? Oh, that can go pushed up there. Doesn't break once the process starts. Doesn't break once the process starts. I was right, yay. So now I could get either one of them. Yes, okay, cool. Could get either one. Nice one. Okay, so how we do? Select a random question when the answer is null or false. Great. If none is available, select a random. Done that. Ask the question, evaluate the answer. Again, it's not a great evaluation, but it is there. Update the last answer correct field. Update the last data field. Cool. Okay. What about the shebang? Okay, so this is sometimes called a hashbang and sometimes called a shebang. This hash followed by a hash followed by an exclamation mark. Okay, and it's often it's kind of a way to mean that we can just run the script as it is. So what I mean by that, because I'm explaining it terribly. So instead of having to type node before I run it, I could just be able to type index.js. The moment it goes, hey, index is denied. That's because I need to make it executable. And I can see when I try to run it, I don't know why I'm getting this. That's interesting. Cipher module. It's running something. Is it running? Maybe it's magic. That's interesting. I have no idea why it's doing that, but that's interesting. But if at the top of my file, I put the interpreter that I want to use for this. So if I do right at the top here, if I do hash exclamation mark, and then for me it's user bin node, is it? I'm not sure it is actually, because I use NVM. Let's see what happens if I do user bin node. Bad interpreter. Okay, so if I do blah, 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 blah. I do node process.argv. This might work. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I probably should have a better there's probably a better way to do this. Called a better version of Node, but I put a valid version of Node, a valid binary of Node there to be able to run. And now when I do dot index, it runs my file. It's cool. It's pretty cool. If I rename it, so if I did something like move index to quizme. And then I could symlink. I think I'm probably going to need my sudo. Symlink quizme to user bin quizme. I need my password. Oh, ln-s. So this is going to create a system link. Nope, lowercase s. Almost there. Nope. Is it the other way around? always get these around the wrong way, maybe. So can user bin quizme point to, oh, I think I have to give a fully qualified path. I could have run them. So users, Kevin, code, playground, quizme, and quizme. I want it to be in user bin quizme. Oh, bother. That's so annoying. I think it's these are the wrong way around. Let me try that. So user bin quizme. File exists. Oh. Oh, so it was where I was trying to write it to. Operation not permitted to there. Okay. That's interesting. Let's try, if I go to the end of that line, I do user, it's user local bin, quizme, got it? Yay. So now, I can be anywhere I want over here, and I can just type in quizme, get error, unknown file, amazing. What's going on? Interesting. I wonder if I need to change it to MJS. Okay. There's another way I can do this with the bin command. For now, I can still run node quizme. Apparently I can't. That's interesting. I've broken it. Where's that? Ah, okay. I see what I have to do. So sorry. So this has to have the JS on it. So move that to have JS on it. I'm going to have to remove that system link. So what was that? User local bin quizme, and then go back to my mapping up here, and I want to map the JS file to quizme, and I think that's going to work now. No such file, data JSON. Okay, so that's because it's being invoked from this directory rather than the place where it was. So so I need to get the local directory. So how do I get local directory in ESM? Well, the nice in CommonJS, it's double_dir. Okay, and you're like, yeah, so that's pretty easy. Double_dir doesn't exist in CommonJS, which is it's an interesting thing. Okay, so what we want to do, if I console log import.meta.url here and run this file, let's run this file. So you can see what process, because ESM was developed for the web, the file name is actually stored as a URL on the import.meta, and import.meta.url gets me this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the path module, so import path from path, and I'm going to do path. I can't remember what method I want for this. Path.dir name of that. Okay, so let's check out that gives me the right directory. Great, that does. So this is our directory name, so const dir name. So that gets us back to the functionality that we would have had in CommonJS. So now every time we do this, we're going to have to do, so every time we've got this, should be 4 of them. Cool. We need to do path.join. And we wanted to join dir name to data.json. Okay, looks good. So let's try again. Oh, have we got rid of that console log at the top? We have. Okay, so let's try again. Bring it back up here. So nodeindex.js, amazing. What have I done wrong now? Oh, I'm in the wrong directory. But quizme should work. Oh no. Let's go into quizme and see what I've done wrong. Quizme.js. Oh. That does work. So why did that quizme not work? Oh, that did work. Ah, that's interesting. Import.meta is giving me the path where it's being invoked from, rather than the path of the script that's running. That's frustrating. Okay. How can I resolve that? I mean, I could resolve it just by changing the path to be, or to just changing their name to be like some config folder that we create, and we could save it into there, like our we could have like a home directory going on. So there are a number of ways I could fix that, but for now, I've talked about what the shebang does, but we haven't got it. We've reached the end of the hour, so I'm kind of I know there's like a couple of unanswered things, but I think I'm going to stop there. So what do we do over the course of that hour? So we learned a bit more about import.meta and how I didn't do what I expected it to do. So we created this command line tool that can help us with our space repetition. We can add questions to our little JSON database, and we can ask questions from it. Our ask questions is going to filter out our data, check whether or not we get anything that we've answered incorrectly or haven't answered yet, and pick from that. But if that was empty, just pick a random question from our list. Then it asks us the question. If the question was right, it updates it. If it was wrong, it gives us this really encouraging and upbuilding message. It updates the last answer. It then creates that, then gets the array, filters out the question we're talking about, pushes a new question in, and then writes it out again. Adding the question, we've got the what's your question, what's your answer, write those answers out, adding a new ID, and we're there. We talked about how if I want something to be used, we used import and export, the ESM import and export. And we said the reason I'm able to do that is because when I initialized the package, I added this extra line, type module. So what I'll do is I'll create a Git repo for this. So quizme. Okay. I will add everything we've done so far. And I'll say like this was all the code from this. Oh, silly me. What have I forgotten to do? I've forgotten to add a git ignore for the node modules. So let's do .git ignore for node modules. Git reset and git add everything. Yeah, that's better. So then git commit, code from string. Let's create a new repo over my GitHub. Call it quizme. And set the remote. Cool. So I'll add this document as the README. And there we go. So feel free to play with it, have a go, make it better. There's loads of things we didn't get onto. We would like to improve the ask, answer, and evaluate, ask question, evaluate, answer structure. That's be improved. The shebang path stuff needs to be fixed because you need to be in the correct directory at the moment, but we should make that directory independent. And then things like storage, last questions asked, and all the rest of that. So there's lots of ways that this project could be expanded and added on to. But that was that was me answering a Twitter thread and Twitter poll and responding to the will of the people and saying yes, I will build a Node CLI tool. Hope it's been useful, interesting. Reach out to me on Twitter if there's anything that would be helpful or useful, or you fancied chatting about. I'm do learning, and I'll be back soon. Thanks. Bye.